All right, it looks like we are going here. And I'm really excited to have James Aspie as my first interview on this new channel. So, James, this is very appropriate because this is sort of an offshoot. So, like, what is this? This is an offshoot of the channel that we're producing for Wayne Chung. I'm an employee of Wayne's, and we've been doing a podcast, and we've recorded a bunch of interviews. And the very first one that we did was with you, James. And so now you're the first one on mine. So yeah, you are number one.
Legend, bro. It's my honor. Happy to have another chat with you. I'm glad it happened
Yeah.
sooner rather than later.
Yeah, me too. And I just want to say, like, part of the reason why I feel like this is so appropriate to have you on is because this channel isn't really thought out yet. So I don't have a full idea of what it's going to be. But one of my ideas is just to expose like the good in people. And I feel like you are one of those people who it's out there, like you are who you are. So like, I think it's already on display that you're a good person. But the privilege that
Thanks,
I've
brother.
had in yeah, the privilege that I've had in working with Wayne is like getting kind of behind the scenes view with a lot of people. And most people that I talk to, when you reach out from Wayne's social media, people respond and they want to talk to Wayne, is mostly what I found. And most everybody is really nice, but you just like are on this extra level nice to me. Um,
Ah,
this You're very authentic, and and I'll tell you a story. Wayne and I were in North Carolina. He had this probation hearing. He had rescued this goat uh, and got convicted. So he had to go back to North Carolina for a probation hearing. And this is around the time when we were reaching out for support about the Ridgeland trial where he had rescued beagles. So we had reached out to you, and you were very responsive. But while we were in North Carolina, you sent us a voice message, and Wayne is so busy, like he's very rarely on social media. So I was checking his messages and I was like, oh, James sent us a voice message. And I started playing it, and Wayne's face just lit up, like, because just to hear your voice made him so excited. And he was like, I've got to send James a voice message back. So, yeah,
epic, bro. I got
yeah,
so much love for you guys, bro. I have more of a history with Wayne, and if I'm not directly sharing my love and appreciation, I'm respecting from afar, and I'm sharing with other people the good work you guys are doing. But yeah, man, I think with me, you know, I yeah, bro. I not pretending to be anybody. I'm not. That's for sure. This is me. Some people like it. Some people don't. But one thing I've learned over the years is that you can't impress everybody, no matter how good your intentions are, no matter your list of successes, and no matter the little to no harm you've done and strive to do throughout whatever career or anything. You can't impress everybody. That lies will be spread about you, and people will misunderstand you, and things will occur that just you know give people the wrong impression, and that's just how it is, man. That's the situation of social media and of people gossiping and and people believing things without correct evidence and stuff like this. But yeah, man, I think I'm a pretty fucking good person, to be honest, and I'm an
yeah,
honest person. And yeah, the little things I've done to support DXE and that, yeah, you guys are doing the amazing work over there, and I'm happy to support in any way. And we're all doing our own thing in our own ways, man. So yeah, I'm just happy to be a part of a solution for so much horror. And I'm just doing what I can do, bro. So yeah, I appreciate the kind words.
yeah. And yeah, you're also my first interview in like nearly 6 years now, actually. So I used to be on
Epic.
the radio, and so I mean, most conversations are just like interviews are conversations. So uh,
Mm.
the point is to have them sound like a conversation. So I shouldn't have lost that muscle, right? But it's just kind of
Yeah,
interviews are a little bit different when you're talking to somebody because there's this third party, there's the audience also as well.
indeed. Yeah,
Yeah.
for example, I was gonna say maybe we could talk about this is just my like tendency. Maybe we could talk about. You said you're not really sure about the direction you want to go with this channel and things like that. And my first tendency was let's talk about it now. What should we do? Let's brainstorm. Da, da, da. But for the audience, that might not be the most interesting conversation to have. Who knows? Or maybe they would
Exactly.
appreciate
Yeah.
seeing how the process goes.
Yeah, we should do that maybe at the end because I don't want
Cool.
to bore
Let's do
people
it.
too much. But so I do want to say before we start, like, uh, this being sort of an offshoot of Wayne's channel, like that's the main project that we're working on is Wayne Chunk's channel. And the interview that you did with Wayne should have already aired by the time this one comes out. So I would encourage people to go and listen to that conversation because I'm kind of gonna shamelessly piggyback off of that conversation because I'm usually like in the background below, like, you can see me on the screen, but below that, I'm usually like
Mm,
there and I have questions too that I want to ask. So I would just encourage people to go listen to that interview if they're interested. It was a really cool conversation. But we started that interview by talking about Logan Paul. Um, and the reason for that is because um, Wayne, who is not really like very much on YouTube and stuff, um, was asking me about like interviews that had impacted me. And that was one that I thought of because it's very rare for animal rights content to break the boundary of our
mm,
kind of silo, and that was like one of
yeah.
those instances where you got out and reached a different audience, and I thought you did it so well because you reached them on their level. And not to belabor the point, but here's a little side point on that also is that just to speak to your character, that's one of the few times that I've actually reached out to somebody. I was like a brand new vegan, brand new activist, and I sent you an email just to say like how great a job you did, and you responded in like a really sweet way. And I'm sure you don't remember that, but it was like a really heartfelt, just like, oh, thanks, bro, like keep going message that I really appreciated.
Mm,
But yeah,
awesome.
we talked about that interview and we had some good laughs while we were listening to it. I you know,
Mm,
you think that you didn't push hard enough in that interview, but I thought it was really good. But where do you
mm.
think you should have pushed a little more?
Well, these days I'm a lot more focused on making the conversation to help people understand it about humans, how we have rights and we agree we should have rights and rights are a good thing and why we deserve rights and what a right is. A right is a protection of our interests by law. So when I sort of was asking the question to them, what makes you so special? And he's like, well, look, we have this civilized society or this sophisticated society and all this. I'm 100% more valuable than a squirrel. And I said, well, to the squirrel, no, you're not. And he's like,
Yeah.
yeah, well, and that's the kind of conversation I would have liked to go on about for quite a bit longer, because I think that is really the core problem in people's minds is that they're speciesist. They see other
Mhm.
animals and they think that there's something else. We are animals. We know that, but I didn't actually know that. Growing up, that was a day I missed in school or something. I'm not really sure. I don't know what I thought I was, because I definitely didn't think I was a plant, and they really had two options. But I just thought we were so different, in a totally different category, and I think that's a huge part of why people are willing to do what they do to them. Because in fact, it happened to me today. Someone said, can you please put this argument like in proposition conclusion? And I said something along the lines of, sure, basically humans believe we deserve rights, and therefore similar beings as us should also have similar rights. And then I went into some more stuff, and it was basically like, we're against Holocaust, therefore, I don't know, I can't remember exactly, but the point I'm trying to make is that her response was, but surely we'd need to be the same to grant the same rights. And no, we're all a little bit different,
Mhm.
and some are more intelligent than others, and some will live longer than others, and we all have differences in different things. But that's actually the least relevant part. These minor differences, the thing that brings us all together is our sentience, is our consciousness, our ability to experience through our senses, and in that experience to have desires, such as the desire not to suffer and the desire to live and not be murdered. And that's really the core that I now realize is really what we need to target hard. And I kind of knew that, but what I used to like to do is cover as many points as possible. Let's talk health, let's talk protein, let's talk humane farming, let's talk everything, right? But now what I try to do is really focus on this. Like, if you think you deserve rights, such as the right not to be enslaved, what is so different about them that makes them not also deserving of this? It must be a huge difference, because you're saying all of a sudden that murder is fine. You're saying all of a sudden that slavery is fine. Whoa. Okay, so it can't just be a little trivial difference, like they have 4 legs and not 2. It must be deep, bro. It must be big. Like, what am I missing? And that is just the answer to the question that can't be answered, because there is no logical answer to that. The answer is basically like saying, oh, I'm just racist. You know, it's the same thing. Oh, my cat is driving me crazy at my door wanting to come in. Just 1 second.
Yeah.
Come in here then.
I was actually going to ask James if I was actually going to ask you if you had any companion animals. They should.
So here's one right now.
Yeah,
this
here
is
we
Dexter.
go.
Dexter is the coolest guy. He's hilarious. He's like the daredevil of the family. He's like me. Whereas JC, his brother, is sleeping right here, and he's like the crybaby, but the most adorable guy. And then Olivia is the princess. She's so sweet. She's always chill. She's like the most pleasant little being ever. And yeah,
this actually is a good point. Like, you're describing all the ways that your various companion animals are different from each other. So, and they're the same species. So just like you and me, you and I aren't exactly the same. That doesn't mean I get to go and kill you.
Fuck
and
no,
eat
better
you.
not.
Yeah,
hell no. You better come with a little army, mate.
That's right.
Exactly. I mean, Dexter is, he's just scratching his head on my computer right now, laying down. He wants to relax and chill. He wants me to pat it. Yeah, I'm talking about you. He's looking at me like, he said my name, because he knows his name,
Yeah.
And he knows that at nighttime we're more likely to play. So that's when he'll, bother me to play. And he knows that if he comes and cries at me in the morning, I'll give him some food. And he knows that if I'm chilling and laying down, it'll be comfy for him to come and lay down with me and relax. And he'll purr and we'll meditate together, and it'll be super chill and relaxing. Because he's a little person, this is a person. Dexter is a person in there. And this is actually something that I have felt really free to say lately. And I'd like to thank Jack Higgs for that, which is Tash Peterson's boyfriend. Boyfriend. Because generally I would shy away a little bit from calling them people. I explain they have a personality and they are someone's, an individual to the sum of one. But I always avoided the word people. But now I'm very much into it, because there are definitions which would include animals under the term people, non-human animals under the term people. Most people think it's just specifically to humans. But on top of that, it's, the way I say it is they are people of other species, because that's what I want. Again, this is exactly what I was just talking about. I want people to see that that's a person too. If you were in that body, you would talk how they talk. You would think how they think, but you would still talk and think. You would still eat food. You would still digest. You would still sleep. You would still get a bit cranky sometimes. You still be more happy sometimes. You still go through the full range of emotions, these animals. And again, so it's been beautiful to meet these animals and get to know them. We rescued Olivia from a dirty car park in Bali, Indonesia. She was the tiniest little baby, just crying to my wife when we went down just to use the bathroom there. And we took her and took care of her, and then got her a couple of brothers who also needed a home. And then we brought them to Brazil with us, because they're our family. We love them so much. They bring us so much joy every day. They're so funny and so cool and so sweet and beautiful. And Dexter's just looking me right in the eyes right now, just staring at me. Like, they communicate, they do this thing where they slow blink and slowly open. And that's their way of saying, look, he's lying right here now. See if you can see him. He's right here. Anyway, that's their way of saying, that's a way of saying, I feel at peace. I'm comfortable, I want you to see that. And they're communicating shit. Like, these are
all
little
the time.
people, man. And one way I consider it, sometimes I used to think that, there's certain times where I think it's good to sort of say that animals are similar to children, because first of all, the animals that people eat are children, basically. They're all like 6 weeks old or a few months old, or they're all young. compared to their natural lifespan. So it makes sense in that way. But I used to sort of say, he's looking at me again. I used to sort of say they're just like children, you know. They're and that is like they're innocent and they're vulnerable like children. But also these animals become extremely wise. They mature as well. They don't just always stay sort of like silly children. They grow, they understand the world more, they make better decisions, they can plan better, they learn things. So they actually mature. And you know, I've seen that in my cats, and you see that in other animals too. So yeah, that's sort of where the comparison ends, because if you give them time, they also become wise and grow as their years go on.
Yeah, you brought up Jack Higgs, and I watched him pretty recently. He's been doing great interviews lately himself.
So great.
He
Oh, I
had
haven't seen his
Richard.
interviews, but I've seen his debates lately, and they've been
Yeah,
so impressive, dude. So impressive.
he had Vegan Gains on Richard, and he was
Mm.
having basically like a polite debate with Richard about using the word "it" to describe animals.
Uh-huh.
And he was basically making the point that you're making. And Richard was basically saying, like, you know, at times this is semantic debate, but Jack was trying to nail down the point that, you know, I think what he was trying to go for is that by using the word "it," we're sort of feeding into this narrative that animals are here, like that they're objects.
Yeah,
It
that
sort
they're
of gives,
things.
yeah, it gives people an out. And when you
Yeah.
just mention your cats, you know, and you talk about how individualistic they are, anybody that's spent time around animals can see that they all have like individual personalities. Why do you think, like, when you like debate with meat eaters, many of them
Hey,
will many of them will
fighting
kind
with
of
his brother.
they'll kind of deny that, and they won't want you to say someone or that they're a
Yeah,
person.
all the time. All the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's because they really believe that. Like, you know, I spoke to people just this morning. One of the people was saying they're not someone's. And I said, do you think they're tables? What do you think animals are? And why do you think you're not an animal? You're just wrong. Look it
Yeah.
up. Google it. What do you think you are? You know, you're not a
Yeah.
plant. You're not a piece of furniture. You are an animal. You're human, a Homo sapien,
Hmm.
one of 10 million species. You're one of 10 million species. You're just another animal, another earthling. But
Yeah.
people are just really, I think a religion plays a big part, to be honest. It's got in their head that there's humans and then there's everyone else. And you know, I think that's a whole nother topic, but I think that's a massive, massive issue that we all need to get over this imaginary friend fairy tale shit in our society. I think it's holding us back big time in critical thinking and progress ethically towards animals and things like that. But
I mean,
also,
animals have all the important, well, when we're talking about like cats and dogs, pigs, chickens, like they have eyes, you know, they have ears, they have
yeah,
the same tools to you know, perceive the world that we do. So
mm,
it's weird to me
indeed.
that people would think that they aren't perceiving it in a very similar way, if not the exact same way.
But dude, it's so real. They're not playing, and I can tell you from my own experience growing up with dogs and not seeing them as people at all. I saw them as so annoying, so pointless, just
Yeah.
taking up space and putting hair all over my house. And yeah, I didn't have fun interacting with those
Mm,
dogs. Yeah, I just wasn't an animal person, funnily enough, at all.
yeah.
And that's because of that belief. I was like, well, I'm not going to spend time with this thing. This is all because of what I was told, by the way. This wasn't my own perception. I wasn't
Yeah.
sure. So I asked people, what about animals in life? You know, what are these things? Basically, the answer I got was like it was on the level of intelligent plants. Basically, that's what I
Wow.
took from the conversations I had about animals with people who I looked up to as authority figures. So,
Wow.
and it's common. And that's why I was like, oh, okay, well, why give these things time? Like, you know, whatever. And it was like that, dude. Even after I was vegan, even after I was like, I'm not purchasing animal products anymore, I'm not supporting this cruelty. Even at that point, I'm still like, I don't know what they are really. I just know that all this screaming that I've seen in slaughterhouse footage is bad. But I don't know
Yeah.
like what it means that they're screaming so much until later. Then I started spending time with cows and like seeing them from this sort of vegan perspective that I'd been learning. And then it was just so obvious. Whoa, I have really had my eyes closed that there's all these other people around me all the time that are
Mm.
making memories, you know, and thinking and observing reality just like I am over here through these eyes and through this consciousness, through this body. So it's one of the most beautiful parts of going vegan, I think, to actually be aware of that they're all people, you know, all these sentient beings
Yeah.
are people too. And for me, that's really enriched my life and enriched the way I view the world.
But you also bring up a good point that you really don't have to be like an animal lover to not hurt them. Like you could dislike animals like intensely. Like there are certain animals that people don't like. That doesn't mean that they go around hurting them. I mean, there are people that you don't like, surely, and you don't go around hurting them. So
Surely.
it's not a
Most of them
requirement
are
to be
vegan, to be honest.
yeah, a lot of them are. Yes.
No, you're 100% right, bro. It's you know, it really does take the most basic level of empathy to say, I won't fund this Holocaust. I won't support this Holocaust. I won't eat these Holocaust victims, you know, which
Yeah.
is what it is, a mass slaughter of innocent beings. It is exactly what it is. And unfortunately, though, there's just so much baggage with people making the decision to do the right thing by animals. They feel like it's just going to change their life in such a major way, and in some ways,
Mhm.
they're right. You know, you never look at people eating flesh the same again. You never look at the
Mhm.
supermarket meat aisle the same again. You'll never see animals the same again. You'll never think about it all the same. It's true. There's a big shift to happen, no doubt. But in terms of the practical side of things, it's also so much easier than people think. They can't even imagine one meal without meat. You know, I remember they can't
Mhm.
even imagine just, oh, one meal without meat. I'm not going to get any protein and it's not going to be good and I'm not going to enjoy it. And why? But people, yeah, people need to just one thing I think would be great is a much more practical based solutions, like more how to go vegan courses and things like that. I think that's really missing. There's so many videos, but a proper like laid out course
Mhm.
is an example of just, I think people are overwhelmed when they think of being vegan. Can I still have my friend? Can I still go visit my friends and they have a barbecue? What do I do when I'm there when they ask me all these questions? What am I going to say? And what about my health? And what do I need to eat? And I heard that I need to take some supplements, or what's going to happen? I'm going to die or something. And, you know, just all the stuff, man. What recipes am I going to eat? How am I going to get enough nutrition? Um, there's just a lot of things that people think are these massive deals that are actually really simple. And
Yeah.
we've already figured it all out. So the map is already there, you know. But I think that because of there's so much to it, it's not just a diet change; it's a perspective change. It's a culture change in a way. You know, you might have problems with your religion and with your people because they believe different things than you. So it is like a pretty you're going against 99% of people on Earth, and you're not just saying like I'm stepping out of that. You know, I don't want to do that anymore. What you're really saying is this is wrong. 99% of you are wrong. You
Yeah.
all are eating slaves. You know, this is a big deal. And I think that's also overwhelming for people to be like, oh God, if I go vegan, like, and then I have to be one of these activists. And I know DXC actually is very much in favor of the being vegan isn't enough. And I respect the message and I love the message, and it's also so true. But and I don't think that message should really change. Like, I'm glad people are saying that. But on the other side of the coin, I also want a message out there because I think it's also true that being vegan is enough, you know, because some people just don't have it in them to be activists or do activism, or they're already overwhelmed enough as it is by thinking about just changing their diet, you know, or just having these awkward conversations. Like, that's just where people are at, a lot of people. So I also really like the message of just, you don't need to be an activist. You don't need to do a single thing. Just if you go vegan, that's enough. And by doing that, you are going to do activism. Like, you are going, maybe not activism with science and
Mhm.
everything, but
Mhm.
you will be advocating for animal rights through your own life. You'll be inspiring
Yeah.
people. People will be asking
Yeah.
you questions. You will learn how to answer them. And overall, you will be advocating for a change. And that's, you know, that's what DXC is all about, right? That's what you guys are telling people. That's what that phrase means. Like,
I
advocate for
don't
change, do something. Oh, go ahead.
yeah. I don't think that being an activist is a moral, requirement, but I do think not harming is a moral requirement.
Indeed.
So, I mean, to the extent that we can. So, veganism is obviously one of the main ways that we can not cause harm. You talked about like how this affects family, like your relationship with your family, and I wanted to ask you about the year of silence that you did because that was like how you started, basically, right? Like, so
Day one.
day one, you just decided you're not going to speak for a year.
Yeah,
And that's pretty intense. Like, so, I mean, so,
it
so
was. It
you're, I mean, a lot of like with my
was long.
family, like coming out as vegan, like was difficult alone. Um, how was it for your family, your relationships, your friends, for you to basically be
Mm.
like, I'm not going to talk to you?
Oh, they hated the idea. No one liked the
Yeah.
idea. I think maybe one or two friends were somewhat supportive, or a couple,
And
maybe
and
probably a
did
bit more,
you
but
and did you like workshop the idea with people? Did you like talk to them about
constantly,
it prior to?
constantly for a
Okay,
whole
yeah,
year, for a whole year, I was
interesting.
writing like proposals about the places that I wanted to fundraise money for, like Voiceless Institution in Australia and Animals Australia. So I was writing this whole. I was like basically just putting the plan together. This is what the plan is. This is where I'm going to go. This is how it's going to work. This is how it's going to be good for animals. This is how I think I can fundraise for you guys. Just planning all this out. I wanted to make sure that people would be okay with me fundraising for them, doing this sort of weird action. And I don't know. I was
But
just like getting it
you
out there.
you
Yeah.
weren't vegan when when you
I was
started the day of
planning it. I
silence.
knew I needed to be.
Interesting.
I was planning it. I
Interesting.
knew I needed to be. I was in my heart. I knew I have to be vegan, and I was vegan. I was eating. I was doing things right most of the time, but occasionally the sort of slip ups I would have would be if someone was about to throw out some animal products, I would eat it, and it was never meat. But
Mhm.
don't know that really matters. But if they're going to throw out like some muffins with milk in it, probably I'd be like, don't throw it out. I'll eat it right now. And that's something I don't do anymore. Since the vow of silence, I said from this day on, I vow to not knowingly consume animal products again.
Mhm.
Dexter's back. So yeah, I stuck to that obviously. But the year leading up to it, I was just working on this goal. I just understood what veganism was, like what happened was I went vegetarian. Soon later, I realized, I think veganism, if this is possible to actually thrive without any animal products, then this also makes sense. It just logically follows on from not eating flesh and doing the right thing by animals. And then once I was convinced by that, then it was just a matter of like learning where this comes up in my life and making mistakes, but then going, okay, I made a mistake, but I'm not going to make that mistake again, and learning from all this sort of stuff. And then when I started my vow of silence, I said, this is it, and that's that. And my family were very, when I first told them about what I'd learned because I learned on a cruise ship. I come off the cruise ship. I'm like, guys, I've learned all this stuff about animals. Let's watch this documentary, Earthlings, together. And they watched and they changed soon later too. They were on board. Like they changed the next day, actually went vegetarian. And soon later we all went vegan.
Wow.
But when it came to the vow of silence part, what I did was I got off the cruise ship. I've been vegetarian a couple of months. Um, Within 3 months, I was doing my first 10-day vow of silence meditation, meditating like 12 hours a day. And this time I had the idea to do a vow of silence for something. And soon later I realized, well, I'm all of a sudden super passionate about animals, which is really weird to me and everybody that knows me. But this seems like a really good thing. It can help human health, which was my main, like a big focus at the time. I've been a personal trainer for 7 years, and it's going to help animals. If one person eats one less steak, even that would be awesome. I'd be happy with that, honestly. And and it's good for the planet. And this just seems really all encompassing. So, and I'll be voiceless, and they're voiceless in a way. We don't
Mhm.
take notice of their voices. This could be great. So yeah, it just made a lot of sense for me. And my friends were like, "You're doing this for animals, dude? There's kids with cancer and all this shit." And my answers weren't so great back then. Wasn't even vegan properly yet. I was just figuring it out. But
Mhm.
I said things along the lines of, "Well, there'd probably be less cancers if people weren't eating animals." And yeah, I know you don't care about animals and think they're meaningless, but what you guys are paying for is to get them stabbed to death. Like,
Yeah.
you don't see how that's pretty fucking bad, bro. Really bad.
Mhm.
And then in terms of just the vow of silence part, people were worried about my mental health. Actually, they're like, I don't know, we don't know anyone that's done this. This sounds really crazy. And what if something bad happens? And I was like, I'm just not talking. I just did 10 days, nothing bad happened. Like, don't worry about it. It'll be sweet. Worst case scenario, I just bail it, but I'll be fine. And yeah, I read a book by a guy called damn, I can't remember anymore, but he did a valve science for like 15 years or something. He's a professor in the USA actually, and he also just decided to only walk. Did that for like 22 years. So his book was the Ragged Edge of Silence, it was called, and that gave me some inspiration just to say, okay, I'm not going to go crazy if I stop speaking. This should be sweet. And it was
what do you mean?
It was great.
What do you mean? What do you mean only walk?
He didn't take any transportation anywhere.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay.
I
Interesting.
got to remember this guy's name. This is a really interesting couple of books: Planet Walker and the Ragged Edge of
This is
Silence.
somebody who walks the walk, like literally.
John Francis. Oh yeah, he did it for environmental
yeah.
reasons. The no transportation, and I was very curious around this time of people that I found inspiration in. Which of these people are also vegan? Which of them are also vegetarian? And it was always very surprising to realize how few of them were anywhere on the journey inclined towards being vegan. But all this was just inspiration for me. I was like, whoa, I can't believe I understand something that most people don't about animals of all things, which is something I've never been interested in. And it's so important. And the more I think about it, the more important it is. And that's still true 10 years later. The more I think about it, the more I'm like, oh my God, urgent. Like, what can we do?
Like, what did you do during that time? Like, did you go out with friends still? Like, did you?
I did.
Yeah,
we did it all, man. I was in
Yeah.
Australia at the time. I was traveling around in my van by myself. I visited all the hot spots because I thought that would also be interesting. People maybe they're just interested in following the journey around Australia in a van. So I try to make it interesting for them. Write a blog almost every single day on Facebook and Insta and WordPress. And then people would also learn animal rights because I'm talking about what I'm learning about animals. And I'm at a sanctuary today, and we rescued fucking hundreds of animals from factory farms during this year. And so people are learning all different angles of this, and I'm learning about welfare and abolition. And I cycled across Australia when my van broke down to show that you can be healthy, just like trying to tick off whatever I could through my journey of proving that vegans can be healthy and strong. And I was going here and doing this and doing that. It was trippy. I was just thinking about this yesterday. We went to this thing in Adelaide, this little festival, and there was this comedian on stage called The Boy with Tape Across His Mouth. And he had this big piece of tape across his mouth. And we're in, it's like a big circus tent. So we're in there, me and this girl, and we were just chilling right up the back kind of thing, watching this show. And the first thing he does where he gets someone from the audience, he looks around, and his whole thing is doing this whole hour skit with tape over his mouth. And out of everybody in the crowd, he comes, picks me, Voiceless 365 guy. I'm about a month or two into the Voiceless mission. And he grabs me. And so he's voiceless on stage. I'm also voiceless, but nobody knows this except me and the girl I'm with. And,
it's funny as you say that they're not voiceless anymore.
Then Dexter starts crying. Can you open the door, please? Let me out. That's what I'm about to do. And he's going to go out. That's what he's telling me. He's going to go out.
Nice. Yeah.
I need to just turn there. There you go, bro. Get out of here. He's so funny. All right, yeah. And he gets me on stage. He puts all these balloons like under my arms and in between my knees and all this.
Balloons,
and then he gave me what are those things called?
Oh, like an air horn
stapler.
thing?
A stapler.
Oh, a stapler. Oh, huh.
Yeah, he gave me a stapler. So hang on. He gave me a stapler, and he had a stapler with the balloons under him as well. And then we played this like Western game of shooting staples at each other's balloons.
Whoa.
And it was just the trippiest experience because of everyone in the crowd, he picked me, the voiceless guy. It was so funny.
Yeah, and he had the tape over his mouth. Like
his whole gimmick is to do funny things without saying anything. Kind of like Mr. Bean.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. I watched Mr. Bean growing up. That was some good stuff.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah. So
yeah, bro. So that was the idea for the Valve Silence. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, when you came out of the Valve Silence, you did so on a national TV show, right? Like it was like Good Morning something, like some kind of morning show, right?
Yeah. I can't remember what the morning
Yeah.
show was called, but yeah, basically they messaged me and they said, "Do you want to do this on the 1st of January when you break your vow of
Yeah.
silence?" But I said no because everyone's going to be busy, doing
Mm,
New Year's stuff. Nah, I'm not going to do that. So when I was able to finish my vow of silence on the 1st of January, I actually on that day started another 10-day Vipassana meditation course. And during that is when I decided, because as this day is coming up, you can talk again soon. For the first time in a year, you have the opportunity to talk. It's coming up, but I'm cycling across Australia, man. Like I'm working 6 hours a day. I'm listening to animal rights stuff, mainly from Gary Francione at the time.
mm,
And I didn't give it a second of thought, really. What am I going to say on this TV show? Do I even want to do it? I'm so nervous. I was the most nervous public speaker, dude. But I was like, well, this is really because I was already happy with what I'd achieved before I even got on the show. I'd got tens of thousands of followers online, and I'm always putting out vegan messages, and people are telling me they're getting it and they're interested and they're changing. I was already
mm,
stoked, and this experience, I was like, well, every I'm doing this for the animals. Okay, maybe I'm a bit
yeah.
scared to kind of be on TV and speak for the first time. It could be a pretty weird experience. And then to talk about veganism, I've only been vegan for a year. I'm still figuring this out. The more like I'm learning, like there's a lot I need to understand about this. I don't want to say the wrong thing, but you know, at this time, especially 10 years ago or 9 years ago, exactly, this is what I'm talking about. There, you don't hear about veganism often, especially on TV. So I saw
Right.
this as a really huge opportunity that had come from the vow of silence, and I figured, well, I can't say no. Did my 10-day vow of silence, figured out what I was going to say just about. I wish I focused more on the conclusion, to be honest, but that's something I've learned since doing hundreds of speeches about this topic. But anyway, apart from the conclusion, which sort of just trailed off into nothing, the rest of the message I gave, I was extremely proud of, and would probably say the exact same thing today.
Hmm.
And yeah, so 10 days after I could speak, it was like by this point about January 13th, I went onto their show in the morning and they asked me, what do you want to say? Which is what I explained to them to ask me so that we could get the ball rolling. And,
Yeah.
man, I said what I said, and then tens of millions of people watch that. And it's still a popular video that goes around. I get comments on it all the time. And yeah, man, it was what needed to be said, what I had time
Yeah.
to say, and I'm stoked about it. Like that also opened a huge amount of doors for me too to go and do more.
Yeah. And what I remember most from that interview was how like your voice broke when you spoke for the first time, because it was like laborious for you to actually use your voice again, like after not flexing that muscle for like a year. Did it
Yeah.
hurt?
Nah, it just felt weak. It just felt like a weak
Yeah.
muscle that I had to really kind of work to get some volume, and I couldn't get volume very good for a little while. It wasn't
Mm,
so different. The main thing I noticed that was different is that during my year, because I was communicating with body language, I tried to simplify everything as much as possible because it was actually very annoying for people to try to communicate with me throughout this year. It wasn't
mhm.
easy. Like every single person that came into contact with me had to do this whole game of charades with me. And some people are great at it, but some people are terrible at it.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah,
it wasn't fun for people to be around me really during this year. It was a novelty for a minute or two. And then it was like, oh, this is hard work. Kind of like me being in Brazil where everybody speaks Portuguese right now. Pretty
yeah,
fucking similar, actually. So yeah, so I was communicating with a different language basically. And one thing I noticed though is that when I started talking again, there was this new process happening of simplifying my words. It was like I want to say something, but then it'll just be this moment extra of simplify and
uh,
make it, and then yeah, I think it really helped how I chose the words that I would use going forward. And
yeah.
that was the main thing I noticed from the actual vow of silence experience side of things.
Actually, I would concur with that because I feel like you did become a very eloquent speaker. That's interesting that you were kind of nervous and shy to even speak before you started all this. One thing I want to ask you is,
I
so
was the
I've been in.
worst, bro. Literally, I was known in my school as probably like in my year of school as probably one of the worst public speakers. I was
Wow.
like friends with everyone, talked to everyone, da 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 da. Like, I was that dude as well. But if you put me up front with a handful of cue cards, I would just be like I don't know what to fucking say. All I can do is read this. This is going to be shit. I'm not going to be able to do a dynamic, interesting speech here and just think of shit to say to you. I'm freaking
Yeah.
out up here. Yeah, I was just
It's
like,
such a
I don't know, hated it.
common thing. It's like a fear of saying the wrong thing or a fear of failure.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a fear of failure thing for sure. And like being, what's going to come out of my mouth? Like, can I
yeah,
trust that what I randomly say is going to be okay? I don't want to look like an idiot. I don't want to upset somebody. I don't know, just
right,
weird
right.
irrational
Yeah.
fears. Yeah, people,
And now,
I say that I make a point to mention it because now, right now, if you say to me, James, right now we have 50,000 people to speak to, audience right there, like I'll be like, cool.
yeah,
I don't think my heart rate will leave, to be honest. I've got in front of a lot of crowds at this point, and I know exactly what I want to say, so I could get up and freestyle something, boom, without any stress. But before, I was extremely
yeah,
nervous to do it even in front of 10 people. So yeah, it just
yeah.
comes with practice. It's a skill that anybody can learn, and I'm a great example of that.
Yeah, I used to like my careers in radio, as I kind of mentioned, and um, I ended up, speaking on the radio very comfortably and talking to however like tens of thousands of people who would be listening. But when I started, I was like terrified, and we spent hours and hours to like record, not even live, record like 1 minute of content.
Yeah, right.
So just trying to get everything right. And yeah, I've learned like through life now that when you mess up, I mean, like, unless you egregiously mess up, but most people just don't care. Like,
I
I
don't care.
learned
Yeah.
that from like playing music and stuff. Like, I played piano on the street and I was nervous to do that too. And
Uh-huh.
when I would mess up, the world just kept going. People were walking.
Case going,
It,
bro.
it
Yeah,
just,
no one
yeah,
notices most of the time.
yeah, exactly.
That
And so
that's
that's like,
I just get. Sorry, go ahead.
I just feel like that's a good way to approach things like activism as well. Like just try, like do your best. Like it's the world's
Indeed.
not going to end if you don't do it exactly right. If you don't say something exactly the way you wanted to say it. You look back at your interview with Logan Paul that I think was like one of the most amazing conversations, and you think I should have done this better.
Yeah,
Like I
There's certain things. A lot I'm proud of, but indeed, there's always room for improvement, which is
yeah,
great.
exactly.
No, I
So
think. Sorry,
well, I
go ahead. Go
mean,
ahead.
one thing I want to ask is like, since I was an activist like 5 years ago is when I became an activist, and I got the luxury of like making my errors, mostly in private. Like
Mm, mm,
I wasn't under the microscope in the way that you were because you basically started like with this giant gesture that got a lot of attention. So like
yeah.
what was that? That must just like I just imagine that must feel like a lot of pressure. Like every activism event that you must have gone to, you must have felt like this incredible pressure to perform at your best.
Um, there is a lot of pressure that, yeah, people hold me to a high standard, and I don't
Mhm.
mind. I mean, I think there's a lot of sometimes people are really silly about it. It's actually funny. I was in a comment thread the other day. I read some of it and then I got involved in it where one person was saying about the vigil that I attended with Wayne in North Carolina that I was just on my phone the whole time. I didn't really interact with people. Now, that's not common of me at a vigil. Most people who've seen me at a vigil will say that I generally go around and talk to people and, try to
Mhm.
just see how people are and fucking have a chat or whatever. If someone wants a photo maybe or something, that happens. And I'm down for
Yeah.
whatever. I don't remember this particular moment, but my guess is, I'm in the middle of a tour or a speaking tour. I'm doing multiple speeches a day at some points. I'm going to
Yeah.
slaughterhouses. I'm speaking to hours of people, like lines of people, talking to every single person in this one day. Maybe I was probably engaged in debates, posting online, and this person's like, "Why did you even come? You didn't talk to anyone." And I
Hmm.
said, well, for the fucking pigs, mate, not for you. No offense, but I'm not
Right.
there to entertain you. I'm not here for your entertainment. Like I went to the
Mhm.
vigil, same way reason I go to any vigil to promote animal rights to my growing audience of tens of thousands or 100,000 or more people at that time. And it was
Mhm.
just a really weird thing. And I tried to explain this and I'm like, this is just annoying. But as being in my position over the years, people will just pick on anything. Honestly, they will find something to pick on, and some people will just love you through it all. they'll see like beyond these little human things or these little rumors and things that go around, and they're just like, whatever, all that. This guy's doing what he can do,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I think that's pretty obvious, but to some people it really isn't. So you really need to get to a point, because you'll suffer otherwise. I've suffered a lot due to the opinions of other people over my time,
Mhm.
and
I've
I'm
seen
very
that.
happy. Yeah,
Yeah.
man, it's hard. Like, I'm doing my best, I'm trying hard. I'm having great success.
Yeah.
And then the person they talk the most shit about often is me. It just doesn't really make sense. Like, go talk shit about meat eaters, they're doing way worse shit than I am, trust me. And it's been weird, but the thing that has been great about it, so great, is that it's forced me to really analyze myself and to come to my own conclusions, and that is a really solid foundation. So when people talk their shit now, instead of being frustrated by it, like when I read a comment of James just was at this vigil and didn't talk to anyone, like, instead of being bothered, I'll just be like, well, I know why I was at the vigil. I know what my goals are here. And if you can get to that point and sort of just rise above the criticisms and also rise above all the love as well, it goes both ways. You can't let other people, you can't rely on that for food, for your own
Yeah.
self-worth and self-love. Like, you just go up and down like a roller coaster all the time. So you just got to have your own steady, I'm a good person, I'm doing my best, I got the results to show it, so there's evidence here. When I'm in this situation, this is how I act, and when I'm in that situation, this is how I act, and I think I'm acting ethically and think I always have, and I don't think there's anything that I've done. I don't regret anything, honestly, that I can think of off the top of my head in what I've done over the last 10 years. I mean, I have a few little regrets in there, but in terms of just a general idea of what I've done for the animal rights movement and my efforts, I think it's all been pretty great. I'm actually very happy with it. I've reached many people over the years, so I'm stoked about it. But yeah, you really need to, either way, it doesn't matter. No matter how good you think you've done and how good some people think you've done, there will be some who are just like, worst guy ever.
Yeah.
And there'll be people in the community as well, the vegan community or even the activist community. And that's where it gets challenging, right?
I
Because,
meant to bring this up actually. Sorry, go
yeah,
ahead. Finish your thought.
okay, no worries. That's where it gets challenging, because you care about these people's opinions. And as a vegan, I've been wrong before. I've been wrong
Yeah.
before about some shit that I was really wrong about. So you give it
Mhm.
validity for both those reasons. They're part of my tribe, and I've been wrong before. What are they telling me I'm wrong about now? And I would always listen. I would always pay attention. What are they saying I did? And am I this person? Am I bad? Did I do something wrong? And it sends you on this whole thing. It takes up time, it takes up energy. It's stressful. It's exhausting. For me, it got incredibly painful at times, physically painful,
Yeah.
all the stress of it all. But again, as I said, it leads you to a point of rising above it. And just
Mhm.
the goal is just, it's not about how many people will like me. It's about being as honest as I can. This is what I'm interested in. I'm not saying everyone should do this. Some people should try to be liked and whatever they want to do. Me, at this point in my life, I am here to be as honest as possible about the reality I see and
Mhm.
about who I am as a person. I'm not playing. This is me, guys. Like, I'm not playing a role of pretending to like animals so I can make some money people think I'm making or be relevant in this world. I just am. I know it's hard to believe because there's not that many people out there that feel like this, but I'm strongly opposed to animal slavery. I'm strongly opposed to slavery. I'm strongly opposed to the fucking 3 trillion earthlings that get slaughtered every year. I know that's
Yeah.
unusual, and people are like, no, you're not. You're in it for, no, guys. I just fucking really think that's fucked up, and I think everybody should feel like I feel. I think that's
Yeah.
normal, and I don't like living in a world of so many insane people fucking torturing animals all the time. Like, I don't like living in a world with all these religions out there as well, to be honest. I think that's really crazy. All these imaginary friends people have, they all believe they've got the word of God. That's scary. They use this shit to control and to divide and like, they're using it as a reason to be violent. I don't like it.
Mhm.
It scares me, man. I don't like to live in a world that's so far from critical thinking and being on point about really obvious shit. So I'm passionately trying to expose this ridiculous way of thinking. And yeah, I'm not always going to do it perfectly as well. Like, I'm just a fucking dude from Australia, like,
Yeah.
trying to do
Yeah.
my thing, and I've happened to have some
Mhm.
great success, but I also don't think I'm perfect. And
Mhm.
I try to take advice and learn from people that are better than me. There's a lot of people I think are way more versed in animal rights theory and debate theory and all these things, and I learn from them and I respect them. I I shout out my gurus, you know. So yeah, bro, it's been a really interesting position to be in, honestly, to be me, to have so much love and to also have so much hate thrown at me, and to have
Yeah.
seen the way that stories get manipulated. And but at the end of the day, I'm still here, and I'm trying so hard, and I care so much, and I'm doing what I can do. And if it's still happening in 20 years, lab meat didn't take over or something, you'll still see me talking the same shit, repeating myself still, most likely. So
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
bro. You know, I'm just trying to kick as many goals as possible in the time I've got. And if I lose 100,000 followers again, which I already have, then I lose them. But you'll still see me doing the same, saying the same thing.
Well, you might lose followers, but then they come back. It's just like these are kind of artificial things. Like you didn't lose the follow. Well, I don't know. You know, some
Actually,
people
what I would
just like,
say, let
yeah,
me say, because no, I think that, you know, over the years, my reputation has copped a beating, an
yeah,
undeserved beating. I've been defamed quite severely, quite targeted, and very dedicated, a very dedicated group of people intent on putting out misinformation about me.
mhm,
Whether they truly believe it or not is questionable. Some of them, I think, believe the bullshit, but some of them I know, I've seen the way they manipulate the truth. And so, you know, I question their actions there. But no, I think that there's a very real, you know, amount of people out there who just have lost total interest in me because they think I'm somebody that
mhm,
I'm not, based on the way that things have gone over the years. And that just is what it is. Like, the point I'm trying to make is, yeah, things like that even can happen. It can get really, like, you can just
yeah,
feel, you can feel like you are being charged with a crime that you didn't commit.
yeah,
And what are you going to do? Like, all you can do is just put out the information that's facts. Some people will pay attention to it. Some people already have made their mind up. Some people will change their mind. But at the end of the day, again, like, what do you got to do? You just got to
yeah.
keep trying to kick goals.
Yeah, and we really talked a lot about this on in during Wayne's interview. So I don't want to just repeat that. I would point people to that interview because you guys talked about a lot of the allegations against you, like
Mm.
and you kind of broke them down really well. Actually, I was going to say what I did forget to do at the beginning that I wanted to do was just to people are going to see Jimmy Cashby on their screen. And I actually, at first, when you came back and you were like, I'm just going to be like Jimmy Cashby, I was like, from my not knowing you perspective, I was like, what is this? Like, what's James doing? But
Yeah.
now that you've told me like why you're Jimmy Cashby, I actually think it's kind of clever. So tell people why you're Jimmy Cashby.
Well, Jimmy Cashby is just a rap name, bro. Like, some of my haters will tell you that I have bipolar now and that I've got a split personality, and I think that I'm Jimmy Cashby now and whatever, whatever. Just my rap name, dude. Like, Eminem is Eminem, but he's also Marshall Mathers, and 50 Cent's real name isn't 50 Cent, you know?
Yeah,
So it's just a rap name, but it's the rap name that was given to me by the people that fucking talk all the shit about me.
yeah,
And this is like a big thing I've learned of, like, there's value in what they're doing. They're helping me. They work for me, basically,
yeah,
these people, because you can take what they're doing and turn it into good. And maybe not everything and whatever, but for example, they started calling me Jimmy Cashby, implying that I'm like all about the cash. And I'm like, that's a cool rap name. So fuck it, Jimmy
yeah,
Cashby. And since then, I've wrote probably about 40,000 words of rhymes now. You know, I've got like songs. I finished a song, I
mhm,
started and finished a song last week. You know, so I've got like a whole new way to promote what I'm trying to promote here, what I'm trying to advocate for. And I think, honestly, I hope, maybe I'm totally wrong and it'll just be a flop, but I think that animal rights raps is going to be big, and it's currently almost nothing. There's almost no animal rights rappers. There's almost no um, vegan messages throughout music at all, let alone just the rap culture. So I think there's a big place here to start. And the best part about it, though, is just the way that you get to tell the story. Just when you're having a conversation, it's linear, you know, it goes how it goes. It follows a
yeah,
certain. But when you're writing poetry, basically, you know, when you're writing rhymes, it can go in all different ways. It really, the creative juices flow, you know, and it takes people on a different kind of journey. And
yeah,
also, because it sounds good, it's got a beat, it rhymes, people listen to it more. And so all these messages, there's just so much potential here, I think. So that's why I'm also just really excited about it. I think I'm tired of doing the same old speeches.
Yeah.
I think that music is like one of the most influential things we've got on earth. Musicians are the most influential people we've got on earth, at least some of them. And that leads me to be like, well, I should probably try to become a musician. You know, what's the best way I can promote animal rights? I could focus on this, I could focus on that, but musician, okay, I could be Jimmy Cashby. Let me see if I can write rhymes. I can write rhymes. You know, I talk about animal rights all day, every day. I've listened to rap since I
Yeah.
was 12. Let's see if I can write rhymes. Yeah, it makes sense. I can write some rhymes. And, I've been practicing for like a year and a half on writing rhymes now. So they're improving, getting better and easier to write and things like that. And then, yeah, see what happens. Like it could be massive. It could be
You
almost
know,
nothing. I don't know.
You know what's interesting about what you're talking about, like there being not much rapping about veganism or animal rights. That's weird because there's actually a lot of rappers who are vegan, and like you could just Google it. There's like 20 like really prominent rappers. Like actually, the New
Yep.
York Times just did a story just like 2 days ago about RZA. It was like an interview
Mm-hmm.
with him about meat, and he was
Yeah.
talking about like how
Uh-huh.
like how the chickens are treated. I mean, it's so I kind of
But
wish
where
that
are the
somebody
raps, RZA?
exactly.
Where are the fucking
Nipsey
raps? One of my Go ahead.
Nipsey Hussle was vegan. ASAP Rocky is vegan. I one of the Will I Am is vegan. I mean, there's just a lot out
Mm.
there. Yeah,
Yeah, it's interesting. There seems to be, but there's not a lot of content. And it's also interesting because it's a brand new topic that has so many great words and so much interesting language to use for music, but
yeah,
almost no one's explored this yet.
yeah,
So, especially from look at it from my perspective, what I do is communicate this message and I speak about it confidently on a stage. So, just put a beat to it and I just make my speeches rhyme. And
hmm
we've got a whole new package here. We've got a whole new package to deliver to the world that can basically just make the same message I say, go viral all over again, potentially.
yeah.
So, and I've already seen this in effect. I've just released one verse to the world. It got over a couple of 100,000 views. It got a debate started with Sean
Beautiful.
Baker that he'd been avoiding for about 6
I
months,
saw that.
and,
Yeah.
and it got on Joe Rogan. It got on a Joe Rogan podcast, biggest podcast in the world. Our debate.
Wow.
So that all
I didn't
started
know
from a
that.
rap. Yeah,
Huh.
they
Interesting.
talked about it. Joe watched the whole debate, and then they discussed it on his podcast that he did with Sean Baker. So that all came
I
from a rap, dude. First rap
I
I did, hundreds of thousands of views, got on Joe Rogan. Pretty epic.
I need to watch that because I actually saw that you were trying to get Sean Baker to debate you, but I didn't know it actually happened.
Yeah,
So yeah, I need to watch it.
it's on his YouTube channel, and you
Okay,
see
interesting.
the thumbnail is like very obviously this is it. It's me on the thumbnail. It says something about
Yeah,
vegan something. Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation how that debate went. It was an
yeah,
interesting
yeah.
conversation,
I'm
but
sure it
basically
was. Yeah, I've seen it.
it was halfway through 30 minutes, and he's like, "Sorry, I only have 30 more minutes." We barely even finished introducing ourselves. It was
Yeah,
I don't know. I think he and he tried to make it more of an interview than a debate, and he didn't allow my first person that I wanted to bring, which was Dr. Avi, who I consider the best vegan debater there is.
hmm
He's like, no, not him, not him. I said, why? Let's just get the best people to do the best job from my side, from your side. You're meant to be the man, right? And Avi's the man.
hmm
So I got the debate to happen. Now let's make it happen. Not him. Why? I don't know. I don't like him. I told him to eat a bag of dicks once. I said, well, Avi doesn't give a shit. Like we just want to
yeah,
talk
yeah,
about the fucking conversation. We don't want to. We're not
yeah,
here to make friends. Whatever, dude.
yeah, yeah.
And he's like, nah. So I brought on another guy, and but yeah, it was just interesting. All these little things he did to, uh, make it go in more in his favor. But in the end, it didn't really matter. So anyway,
In my
it is.
opinion, Avi might be one of the most intelligent and least known animal rights people out there.
For sure.
He's known through like vegan gains and Ask Yourself, but he definitely deserves more of a following because he's very principled in his debating, and he's also not concerned. Like he did this very interesting video after the Joey Carbstrong Tristan Tate conversation that most people kind of agree didn't go that well. He talked about how there's this like difference between like activists debating and just people who like want to debate the merits. That activists have this sort of like second agenda that they're trying to work off of. And I thought that was interesting. Like there's an interesting point to be made that yeah, an activist is during a debate trying to be right, but is also trying to influence the actions of an audience and the speaker. And for Avi, he was saying this is for me, it's just like debating the merits. And I
Yeah,
think with veganism and animal rights, we win when we debate the merits because we're, in my opinion, we're correct. I mean, I think objectively so.
absolutely. No, I completely agree. I mean, look, Joey's got a unique perspective as well. So I know that Joey has his heart in the right place and did what he felt was best. And maybe
Yeah, I
Dr.
agree.
Avi disagreed, and it is what it is. Maybe they would still disagree, even if they both shared fully their reasoning behind their difference
Hmm.
of opinion. But the fact of the matter is, like, Joey's the one who got the debate happen, and he
Hmm.
did what he could. And I didn't think he did any. I thought he did a good job. I thought he,
Yeah.
like, there's things I would do differently, but he had, look, and I come again from a different perspective than Avi, I suppose, because I see
Hmm.
Joey and I see him creating a connection with a guy here, not saying anything necessarily that will sever a connection. And he's talking to a very influential person. So this
Hmm.
is a reasonable factor, I think, to consider when having this conversation. That just like me with Logan Paul, I've got a connection there and I didn't burn any bridges. And I
Yeah.
feel like that's also important to consider and weighing up how this conversation goes.
Hmm.
Someone else might disagree and say, no, you should have just said the debate like this and like that. And at the end of the day, I
Hmm.
also weighed that up and tried to debate the best way I know how to debate. And I'm sure Joey did too. And so, yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I also agree that that's why I wanted him as my first choice, mate. A
Yeah.
doctor versus a
Well,
doctor, the
yeah. And
same
my
credibility.
opinion, no one asked for my opinion on the Joey debate, but my opinion on it was that uh, Joey maybe tried too hard to connect with Tristan rather than just being Joey. I feel
Mm.
like he tried to, reach Tristan on his level. And I think a lot of people were just expecting him to be Joey, who goes on Piers Morgan and, just lays it out. And I think Joey did a much better job than some people gave him credit for because I feel like people are just really eager to like be harsh on
So
somebody
eager,
when um, and you're
like they could
right.
do
Like
better.
exactly. Like it was a really kind of a tough situation. And I don't know this, but from my perspective, it seemed to me that what was going on behind the scenes, I could be wrong. It seemed like the Joey got notice of the conversation happening just like an hour or two before and was probably not was scrambling to make it happen.
Actually, I'm pretty sure he had like over a month to prepare.
Well, he had months that he knew that they were discussing it, but it just looked to me slapped together at the last minute. Like, oh, now Tristan says he wants to talk. I'm
Oh,
completely
okay. I
like
can't remember that
guessing.
much.
I'm
No
just
worries.
guessing
Yeah,
based
yeah.
on how things seemed, So
Like at the
but
end of the
you know
day,
what?
he could have had all these different intentions and it just didn't quite come out the way he wanted. And before he knew it was over, like, fucking,
Yeah, yeah,
some of the best debaters ever don't always have the best day ever and whatever. Like,
exactly. Yeah,
people made such a big deal about it. I just thought, guys, Joey's always doing shit. This is just another
yeah,
thing
yeah,
Joey's done. And
yeah.
whatever, like, he did a fucking reasonable job. He talked about veganism to the guy. He asked some great questions. And,
Hmm.
you know, no one really expected Tristan to change his mind anyway. Like,
Yeah,
he's a staunch meat eater and he's a stubborn guy. And even if you
yeah.
presented good arguments, he probably would have just been stubborn about it, like most meat eaters.
Hmm.
So, what were people expecting? Like,
I think in the
it
end,
was good enough.
Tristan's position looked kind of psychotic and unreasonable too. So
Yeah, it usually does.
yeah, and I mean, Joey was able to use that in follow-up conversations. Like there are some people that just don't care about this, but you are someone who probably cares. Like I've seen him do that in his street
Yep.
activism.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah,
want to
man.
talk about activism a little more because you touched about on this with Wayne, and you mentioned it, the vigil in North Carolina. That's my turf. If that had happened
Oh,
like a year or two later, I probably would have been there. But tell me about the vigil that you did in North Carolina and how you ended up there and how that went.
honestly, it would be hard for me to do because I don't know if I know exactly which one it was. Like,
I'm pretty sure I know where it was. It was probably the Tar Heel, North Carolina plant,
no, I
which
think it was
is
that huge one, like the biggest one in
yeah,
the
in the
hemisphere or
world.
something. In the
Yeah,
world?
It
What?
used to
Yeah, I probably knew that at the time.
It used to be, I believe. I think like it's since then, and I forget which metric we're using, but it used to be considered the biggest pig slaughterhouse in the world. I'm not sure if that means by number of pigs or by,
Mm,
but since
size or
then, I
whatever.
believe somewhere in China has overtaken it. You know, now that
Yeah.
they're doing so much. But anyway, yeah, in Tar Heel, North
I
Carolina, there's a
look, to
massive.
be honest, like I just remember it being similar to most of the slaughterhouse vigils I went to. You know, I always find it a useful use of time to I personally don't find it so useful for the pigs, except for if they're able to give water and things like that. Okay, it's a small little consolation and a bit of love. But of course the main thing there for me, and I know there's many reasons to be there, like just having this presence and things like that. But for me, it was always just to share the faces of these victims and to show that
Yeah.
these are real and this is happening right now today where I am around the corner from a lot of you. You know, it was always me just trying to share the story of what they were going through. And you know, we were in a part of the world, your part of the world, right where you are now, where the mentality of the people is same as everywhere, but a little more pronounced. You know, I think they're a little bit
Mhm.
closer to the reality that they're killing
Mhm.
animals, whereas a lot of people, like where I'm from in Sydney, they're just really detached from it. You know, they don't see the trucks
Yeah.
driving on the highway full of the pigs on their way to slaughter. They don't see animals anywhere except for their body parts wrapped up in the on the shelf in the supermarket. So I
Mhm.
think we're in a place where people were more aware, but also it didn't make them look any less crazy about it. They just seemed like extremely irrational people. And I remember
Mhm.
that I believe it was before or after the vigil, but the same area. We went to like a fair kind of thing. You know, there was a bunch of stalls selling stuff, and there was this part of the fair where there were all these pigs being kept in this like building, you know, this little factory building
Mhm.
or something. And I just remember there was this big drama from the farmers and that about us being there. And we had our store, you know, we paid our money and stuff. I don't remember exactly what they were selling or what they were. Oh no, we're just leafleting, showing like vegan messages on leaflets and stuff. Um, and and there was all this situation, all this problem, and then we got kicked out of there because we were promoting "Don't be violent to animals." And I think actually it was a permanent ban, if I remember correctly. So
Wow.
yeah, it was a weird part of the world, bro. But again, it was pretty similar to the mentality of everywhere, and pretty similar to the
Mhm.
type of slaughterhouse vigils that I've been to in the past. So the only specific thing that seemed a bit unique was that it was maybe the largest in the world at the time.
The pig killing industry is really big business in North Carolina, especially Eastern North Carolina, where you were. And well, that's where it all is. But
Mm,
you got one thing wrong, that it's like sort of in people's faces more. They actually hide it pretty well. Like, so
mm,
like it's away from like the metro areas like Wilmington and places like that. They keep them out in the rural areas. And in fact, even that slaughterhouse, from what I remember, I've been there too. It doesn't look like much from the road, from what I remember. Like
right.
it's giant, but it looks like it could be like an Amazon factory or something, you know?
Exactly.
But you could hear the pigs screaming inside. You know, pigs are really loud. You know that.
Yeah.
And you could see the trucks and all of that. But yeah, and they've done documentaries about that. That documentary called "The Smell of Money" is about the residents of North Carolina's battle
Mm,
against the pork Smithfield, basically the pork industry, and how they would spray the shit, you know, like up into the air because they have these lagoons of pig manure that they have to get rid of. And what they do is they spray it up into the air and mist it, and it just wafts over into people's yards. And then, of course, they have pretty severe health problems from that.
yeah, like cancer.
Yeah, cancer, and yeah,
Pretty fucking serious. This
several
is
of the
all the shit
people.
they do just to eat
Yeah,
fucking bacon. Like, come
and,
on, man. Spray
and
pig shit
actually,
into the air.
I got a question for you from this, because this documentary was really powerful, and even some of the
Mm.
people died who, you know, like some of the subjects of the film during the course of the film died from health complications.
Oh, wow.
But it got released on Amazon Prime, and you had to pay for it. and so it didn't really get in front of people. And I remember you promoting Dominion, which is one of the
Mhm.
most powerful films ever made, I think, for animal rights. I remember
Indeed.
you giving a speech, and you had mentioned the goal was to try to get this on Netflix, and that never happened. You gave like a
Dominion.
yeah, you gave a
Mm.
talk before the speech. No, after the movie, because you actually started crying when you talked
The
about it. It
first
was
time
so
I
moving.
watched it, yeah.
Yeah.
So okay, so with the Dominion team, I went around all their premieres in Australia and also some in the USA, giving a speech either before or after. Generally after, I
Mhm.
think, the talk. The first time when I saw it on the big screen, I'd been working alongside them in different ways. Like Chris, for example, we'd
Yeah.
been to some facilities together, and different things. So what really caught me, which is interesting, but because I've seen a lot of the slaughter, I've watched Earthlings a couple of dozen times. I've now seen Dominion over a dozen times, easy.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, I would watch it at every screening, and when I watched it the first time on the big screen, and being so excited to see it, I didn't see a screening before it or anything like a private, a sneaky link like the Conspiracy guys gave me for this documentary. So
Mhm.
I'd been looking forward to it for so long, and I was so excited for my my activist fam to be all their work going into
Mhm.
something so amazing. And what really like got me in the end was just seeing what they'd gone through to get the footage. And yeah, man, it really just I was just so grateful, honestly. I kind of confused. Why is this really hitting me now? And then after watching it more times, I
Mhm.
realized, it's because like it's my gratitude to these guys. I'm already devastated by the animal holocaust. Like I'm fucking been devastated. I've learned how to just accept that reality and deal with it somewhat. But what I was very much moved by in this moment was just their efforts, their dedication
Yeah.
and their uh, willingness to put their own safety and their own freedom on the line to shine light on this horrific injustice
Yeah.
happening. I was just
Dominion
full of
is
gratitude, man.
Dominion is on YouTube and anybody can watch it for free. So you should go watch it. But what we're talking
Yeah.
about is at the end of the film, which is like really just some of the most brutal footage that you'll see from slaughterhouses. At the end, there's like shots of Chris Delforce, who made the film, and some of the team, like, you know, doing their kind of camera work, just kind of behind the scenes footage of that, which is interesting. It's like Pignorant. Pignorant was kind of a behind the scenes look at an investigation that Joey just put
Mm.
out, where it's like, this really interesting look at him, like, sneaking in to try to place the cameras. It's really intense. People should also watch Pignorant. Um,
For
so
sure.
yeah, shout out to Joey and Chris Delforce and everybody who makes films,
Yep.
man. Like,
Bloody
but
oath. One of the best things you can do. They're on it, mate. They're doing the right thing. Like, what do you do when you want something to go vegan? Watch Dominion. Go watch
watch Dominion,
Dominion.
watch
That took
Earthlings.
years to
Earthlings
make. Yeah,
Earthlings
Earthlings,
made me
exactly.
vegan. Yeah, I
Yeah.
but my question was, like, you had mentioned the goal was try to get this on Netflix, and that never happened. Do you have any insight into why?
Yeah, if I remember correctly, it was just too graphic. It was
Too
just
graphic, and they didn't take
too
it.
much, dude. Too much of a
Yeah.
truth bomb. And
Wow.
like, yeah, they just didn't want to do it. That's the best I remember. It was a long time ago now, but yeah, pretty much something like that, bro. And you know, understandably so. People don't like seeing how the animals are treated before they eat them. They prefer
It's
not to know. They can't even look at it. That's how it's so
yeah,
bad
yeah.
that to even have your eyes glance upon it will
Hmm.
fuck your day up. Like you'll be
Yeah, you're gonna
traumatized potentially for maybe a while if you witness this violence and you're just looking at somebody else go through it. That's how
yeah,
bad it is.
yeah.
Man.
I mean, there are many people can't, like, even Wayne, for instance, who has rescued so many animals and has witnessed so much brutality. He even says, like, that he can't watch those films. Like, I think, like, maybe he has seen them, but maybe he hasn't seen like Dominion, or I don't know.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
actually, we were trying to get inspiration at one point, and I remember that the intro to Earthlings and Dominion are not actually graphic. Like you can watch like
Yeah.
15 minutes, 5 minutes of just the monologue, voiced by Joaquin Phoenix, and yeah. So we watched that, and it's so powerful. Actually, it brings me to tears. The intros,
Mm.
just because of the words are so beautiful. Um, But yeah, I just have this thought, I have this theory that if one of these films had made it onto Netflix, we'd be in a much better position because the problem with putting these things on YouTube is like you have to go look for them. If you're on Netflix and you're scrolling through, you're gonna see, oh, what's this? And like people
Mm.
are like curious about brutality, you know? Like
Yeah,
I
they
think,
are.
yeah,
Indeed. They're curious to get information. They're hungry, but they're also, we're pretty
yeah,
desensitized to violence and things like that. People looking for something exciting or something kind of whoa, and yeah, like the reality of what's being done to animals in slaughterhouses is certainly ticking that box. But I also am with Wayne. To be honest, I haven't seen Joey's video, and I feel bad
hmm
because I love Joey so much. I support his work so much. I'm always sharing his stuff, and we've worked alongside each other many times, and I consider Joey a friend of mine. But and I should watch it. Like saying all this just makes me feel worse. But I also just fucking sometimes it's not the right time for you to watch shit like that. You're already saturated with it. You're already arguing about it all day, every day. You're already
yeah,
thinking about it a lot. And then it's
hmm
like, do I really want to for 90 minutes just be focused on gas chambers? Not really. Like,
yeah,
but yeah, it's
100%.
also like, it just is that, after a while. I've already promoted this film multiple times and I will more without saying, because I know what Joey does and I know what he's done in this film. Like, it's
Yeah.
not stopping me doing that. But in terms of just like sitting through and watching it, I don't know. I
I
haven't
will
I haven't got
say,
there yet.
yeah, I will say that this is not an Earthlings or a Dominion. It's not like where you're going to see
Yeah,
like a
true,
bloodbath.
true. No,
So
that's good.
yeah,
That's a good
so
approach, I think. Then.
you can, yeah, you could watch this film and be okay. But yeah, I understand. I mean, you're
Okay,
and
fair enough.
and by the way, that's not a dig on anybody. Like people who are like already in the animal rights world, I don't think they need to expose themselves to more of this. It's really not
Exactly.
for
Like
us.
it's kind of a game of trying to expose yourself to it as little as possible. Like
Yeah,
we're
true.
constantly exposed to it. You're a fucking
Yeah,
vegan in a non-vegan world. You're exposed to it all the time. So that's more my effort. Like for at times in my life, I've been like expose myself. That's why I watched Dominion at
mhm,
every premiere. So I was fully
mhm.
saturating myself with this reality. But then also there's times where like I've just got out of suffering constantly for a couple of years straight, like really badly suffering. I'm not really wanting to. I'm trying to de-stress. I'm still trying to
Yeah,
de-stress, not like,
yeah.
yeah. So it's a time and place. But in terms of other
You
people, man, I think there's nothing. Anytime, like if I just have one piece of advice, I was talking about it on stream last night. Oh, this reminded me of something that I wanted to say earlier and I forgot. But on stream last night, someone was saying, I'm in this relationship. They're not vegan. I always just say, show them the documentary. Watch the slaughter, watch the slaughter, watch the slaughter. If you
watch it.
watch the
Yeah.
slaughter, that will give you what you need. Like you're looking for something. You're not going to get some health fact that's going to change your life. You need to see the reality for you to be like, I must change and I must change forever. This is not
Yeah.
acceptable. That's
Yeah.
what the footage does.
Yeah. And about the footage, once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. You're changed. Like you will
Yeah.
never, you will never forget what you've seen, Earthlings and Dominion. And
If you
that's
see
why
Earthlings
the,
of Dominion, sure. But when you know what another mistake people make,
hmm
they watch a little bit of something
yeah.
and they're like, okay, I'm going to be vegan forever now. And then 6 years later, they forget what they saw. They didn't watch it 10 times. They didn't maybe even get through the full Dominion once. And then because it was so bad, but then later, because they don't really remember maybe, and they've been saturated with all these other messages, then
Yeah.
they're like, maybe I could just have a little
Yeah.
bit of meat, free range or grass fed or blah, blah, blah. And
Exactly.
these situations occur and
Yeah.
they happen
A lot of
somehow.
people will say like, yeah, no, I've seen like little PETA videos and stuff, and like shout out to PETA,
Yeah.
they're amazing. But if you see like a few minutes of footage, like it's easier to ignore. You sit through 90 minutes of back to back to
Mm,
back,
yeah.
and you see like this is just how it's done. it's impossible to ignore. Actually, I had very recently, I was trying to explain to someone why animal rights is so important, and she was very receptive to it. Vegan Gains had put out this video years ago from like a kosher slaughterhouse. A friend of his, I think, like went with a camera, and it is some of the most brutal footage that I've ever seen, and I've seen a lot of it, you know. And I sent that to her, and then she sent me this really heartfelt voice message, in tears, because it clicked. It finally clicked for her. Like, we had been discussing it, debating it. This is why it's like important. Like, you know, we were trying to talk about, this is why I compare it to slavery or women's suffrage or whatever. It's the same struggle, you know. Like, it finally clicked when she saw that. And
Brilliant.
you know, actually, we were talking just the other day, Wayne and I. Wayne was interviewing David Rams, and
Cool.
he brought up this slaughterhouse in Bali, and he mentioned you. He said, like, I think James has gone there. He was describing it as like weirdly almost like this like tourist attraction, because the slaughterhouse people are so open, they'll let you in. I was wondering, you put out a video where you were like holding up cards and there were animals being slaughtered, and you were talking about Christmas. Is that slaughterhouse?
Yeah, that's the slaughterhouse that he's talking about. I definitely want to describe it as a tourist attraction. I don't think anyone has been there except for a few animal rights activists. Yeah. And when I say a few, I mean less than 10 probably. But I think I know where he's coming from, because if you're someone like David or me, you know that this place is a possibility.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I've been there. I think the first time I went there, I went there 3 nights in a row, documenting, and then I've been back multiple times since. And it's got increasingly harder to get in, actually. Last time we went was Christmas Eve of a year, and that's where I was holding up a sign that said "Merry Christmas" with a question mark, and then I turned it around and it said "End the Animal Holocaust." And my wife came with me, and she held up a sign that said, "If you eat meat, you're the reason they are here." And it's funny, man. The first time I went to this slaughterhouse, perhaps I think it was the first time, I took a photo with of me there. Someone took a photo of me, and the animals were getting slaughtered behind me. And the same crowd of vegans who usually have a problem with me existing we're all about how wrong it was of me getting this photo. Oh, look, James got his selfie with the slaughter victims. James got his selfie. Well, that was one of the most liked and seen photos I'd ever put on Instagram. And that was obviously the point. It's something new. Everybody scrolls past slaughter footage, but they see a person, a vegan, at a slaughterhouse with animals getting slaughtered. It's just something that will hold their attention a little bit longer. That was my only intention. I'm like, hey, selfie moment, fucking idiots.
Yeah, they're missing the point. Yeah, they're
deliberately missing the point at this point. They're deliberately missing it. But the point is, man, this place existed, and I've had videos reach millions from this place. So it's been that's very hard to just stroll into a slaughterhouse. And as I said, it's not like this anymore. We had to get an Indonesian guy, and we wrote an email and made up this story. And even then they said no. And then we ended up just trying anyway and sneaking our way in. And I've been there many times. It's the same guys there. A lot of them, at least, they were doing the killing from the first time I went there 3, 4 something years ago, like compared to the last time I went. They're there every day killing. And, so at this point they recognize me probably. But
it seems obvious to me that this selfie that you took was obviously not about you. I'm sure you weren't in the selfie smiling and like being like, smiling. Hey,
I'm like, hey, this is happening. Look.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing.
And there's also something powerful about being able to say that you were there, because a lot of people will ask you like,
all the time,
well, you haven't. Yeah. Have you actually been there? Have you seen it? And if you can say, yeah, I was there.
Fucking oath. Look at this video.
Yeah,
exactly. Yes, this is what you fund. Yes, I was there. I took this video. Have you even ever been on a factory farm? Yeah, I've been on dozens of factory farms. They're all fucked. You're defending factory farming now? That's the kind of person you want to be, really?
And that's one of the most powerful things you said to me, was just like how the pig slaughterhouse in North Carolina made so little of an impression on you, because they're all the same. They're all
Yeah,
like this.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There was, I mean, the one slaughterhouse I would say that's had the most impression on me from the outside is one in the UK in Manchester, I think it was, where if you go around the side of the slaughterhouse, there's all this nature and there's this dog walking track, and you can go off the track and just like 20 meters up this little hill with a few trees and get to this big iron gate. And about 5 meters from the gate is the wall, and on the other side of the wall is the pigs screaming in the gas chamber. So you've got the gas chamber, a few meters of space, a gate, and then a dog walking track. People are walking their dogs, listening to these pigs screaming in a gas chamber.
Wow.
It's crazy, bro. Yeah, and actually, that place has been recently shut down. But what was
I think I
interesting?
know what you're talking about. That Earthling Ed's probably done videos out there, right?
He's
And there's
been
like
there. Yeah,
locks. Yeah, there's like locks on the fence, right? Where like people have like put little memorials.
yeah,
Maybe.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, that's the same one, dude. Yeah. You know the
Interesting.
one I'm talking about. You can hear him from the gate. But something interesting happened after my last. No, sorry, it wasn't my last time to this slaughterhouse. It was maybe the time before. I came back into I'd been there 3 nights in a row, all night. You know, just filming, doing live streams, talking, collecting footage, and after the third night, then the next day I got onto a flight, came to, I think it was Brisbane, to do a bunch of speeches or something, and in Australia. And during this time that I'd been away from Australia was when all the Meet the Victims actions happened. You know Meet the Victims, right? They do the sit-ins in the factory farms and things like that.
Yeah, Leah
So
Dellinger.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was at their first one in Brisbane, I think. So this makes sense. But what had happened was there'd been this shift about vegans in the public perception to terrorists. Vegans are terrorists, and I wasn't there in Australia. I was doing my thing all over here and there and everywhere. So I come into customs from Bali with my vegan hat on, saying vegan. And they start grilling me, asking me all these questions, and I'm like, I'm usually just don't have this situation happen to me, despite all the tattoos and everything. I usually am as friendly as I know how to be and then cruise on through. This time they're asking me this and asking that, and I'm not clicking. It might be because I've got my vegan hat on. And then they're like, we need to go through your phone. So at this point, I'm like, whatever, but now thinking about it, I wouldn't let this happen so easily. Anyway, they're like, we need to go through your phone. They go through and the first thing they see is all this slaughterhouse footage, like horrific shit in my phone.
Good activism.
And I mean, yeah, but it looked pretty crazy probably. And they're like, we can't let you in with this on your phone. This is like graphic violence, this is like snuff film kind of shit.
Wow.
And I said, dudes, do you guys eat bacon? Yes. Cool. This is how bacon's made. And I'm just showing people the reality. I'm against this. You are the one that literally supports this and eats these dead bodies. And I can't have you're allowed to go and buy it and eat it and support this violence and create this demand for this to happen. And I'm not allowed to have footage of it. Are you kidding me right now? Does that sound hypocritical to you? And they were honest, thank God. And they were like, yeah, actually, you make a pretty good point. I'm like, right, and they let me in, and I didn't have to delete shit. So yeah, it worked out all right.
Wow.
And then it gave me some new shit to talk about in my speech because that was just such a ridiculous situation to happen.
Wow, that is amazing. Yeah, I mean the amount of like standing against. I mean, we during Wayne's podcast and stuff, we get a lot into repression and how we're viewed as terrorists and all this kind of this and that. And it's really the opposite. It's standing against terrorism. And it's just such a topsy-turvy world we live in that
so topsy-turvy, bro.
A buddy of mine was like, we were laughing about it. He was like, dude, like people are saving chickens and they're like, no, bad, go to jail.
Exactly. I was telling a story in my life. It's so crazy, bro. Like, especially when Wayne talks about it, he's like, so here is this dog, I don't know, Lucy or Sophie, I can't remember, sorry. who was being brutally tested on in labs. And he just
Yeah.
paints this picture of what's being done legally. And you're like, this is the guy that they're trialing for criminal activity, the guy who saved this dog. Like,
Yeah.
what the fuck? This world is so fucked up. And another example of exactly this is I did 5 speeches. I was talking about this on my live stream last night. I did 5 speeches in a high school one day in London, and it was epic. It was one of my favorite days ever. And then we did the virtual reality after, and everybody signed a permission slip to be able to hear a speech from me and whatever. And then after one of the best days ever of doing 5 back-to-back speeches to high school kids, the woman who invited me was back and forth going to court over inviting me to her school. And what she learned through this court case is that I don't know if I am anymore, maybe, I was on a terrorist watch list. Mm-hmm. And there was this whole thing about it. She nearly lost her job over this shit. I had to take my videos down. And yeah, it was crazy. I'm on a terrorist watch list. Who have I terrorized ever? When have I ever incited any act of terrorism? Never. What I say is end the terrorism. You are terrorizing these beings. Stop that shit. And I'm the terrorist. Fuck you.
You are like one of the most peaceful sounding people. Like, you're the person that if I saw at a bar, like I would just imagine us sitting around like a bonfire, and you'd be like, dude, you know, like,
dude, I'm chilling. I'm everybody's friend. If they're cool, like they're not a fucking idiot, you know? Like, I'm pretty patient with people. I'm pretty and I like to just pretty much try to be friends with anybody. At the rave, everybody's my friend. Like at the supermarket, I like to increase the peace, dude. That's my whole thing. I try to increase the peace. And to just put me in this category of terrorism, and then like she almost lost her job over inviting me to her school, when all I'm saying is, guys, we should be kind to animals, right? You agree that hurting innocent animals is wrong? Okay, so when we eat meat, we are doing the opposite of that. We're hurting innocent animals, and we believe that's wrong. It's just as simple as shit, you know?
Yeah.
But that was a big problem.
Yeah. And you talked about Wayne. He was facing like maximum 16 years in prison for rescuing dogs from this place, Richland Farms. And we were trying to get, part of why we reached out to you, we were trying to get attention for this. We were reaching out to press to try to get attention about it. I don't know if you saw this just the other day. You probably did, about this governor. I think she's South Dakota governor in America, who like had shot her dog and wrote about it. And so the media, and that's a terrible thing to do, and the media is in an uproar, as they should be. But where is the same outrage about these dogs at Richland Farms who are being tortured to death, not just shot and killed, but also tortured before they're killed?
Yeah, the criminal in this case isn't the one torturing, it's the one rescuing from torture. Like, explain that to us, please. Explain how that makes sense, guys. Go ahead. We're waiting with that popcorn. Go ahead. Tell us a story of how this makes sense.
And I'm pretty sure that you, if you're on a terrorist watch list, Wayne's on a terrorist watch list.
Indeed. And that's why I talk about
talks
this.
To you. Yeah.
Exactly.
Anybody that talks to you, probably.
And that is why I talk about this publicly multiple times now. I want people to know that this is a reality for animal rights activists. I want people to know that this is reality when you're communicating with me. This is the reality. Like, and it goes deeper than just, oh, you're on a list, mate. There's been so much shit go around about me over the years, and I know that it's bullshit. All this slanderous, defamatory shit. I know it's bullshit. A lot of people don't know, but at least I know. So I can see how bullshit it is, right? But how confidently people say it. And I wonder, who are you? Who are you really? Are you actually vegan? Are you working for some sort of agency? Who are you people? And it is fact, and I know examples of this, that it goes to the level of when it comes to infiltrating animal rights groups, they will go to the effort of literally marrying into a family with an activist. Like I know someone in New Zealand who has had this happen. To be honest, I don't know I can't go into the details of the story so well, but the basic gist is undercover agent got married to an activist. They stayed together for some years, and then one day they just, boom, were gone. And then soon later, the facts came out about what had happened.
And I think they had children too.
Oh, you know the story?
Yeah, we were just
Some,
talking about this on another interview.
okay.
Um,
Right. So
so
we need to like, and on top of that, there is a very dedicated effort to put out misinformation about veganism and about animal rights because it is a massive threat to industry, powerful industries that don't want to lose their fucking money. So, and people don't want to lose their jobs. So this is all very real. That's what I'm saying. Like, guys,
yeah,
take it with a grain of salt what someone says about Wayne. Take it with a grain of salt what someone says about me. Like, ask for all the best evidence they've got.
yeah,
Don't just start going, oh, I heard that this activist is a bad person, even though they were dedicated and seemed great for 8 years. But then I heard this rumor, and yeah, it must be true because someone said it was true. Like, have a little bit better discernment when it comes to this. Is important. There's not that many activists out there, guys, and the ones that are out there making the effort to do this fucked up job, don't just throw them away over
yeah,
nothing. Like,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
the animals deserve better than that.
And it's something that we should talk about. Like, we should be open and talking about law enforcement repression, industry repression.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things is like just not scaring people off from this. Like, it is a reality that sometimes this happens, but I have a good
Sure.
friend who says it really well. He says, if you're not doing any activism, like if you're not feeling any pressure, any heat or whatever, then you're probably not rattling the cages. So it's not a
100%.
reason to go and hide under your, blanket if you start feeling like, oh, who's watching me or this and that. But I mean, we're talking about you're a very high profile activist. Wayne's a high profile activist. Like most people handing out leaflets, they're going to be just fine. And I guess like we've talked for a while. I think I kind of want to finish with like just for the average everyday person who wants to do activism, if you wiped away everything that you did in your past,
Mm.
especially the vow of silence, because how many people are going to do that? But if you wiped it all away, what do you think was like the most effective that you did?
um I think the easiest thing that people could do, if that's kind of what you're asking me, is
Yeah.
to record their conversations and upload them online because everybody's interested in a debate, especially a debate where they want to see the vegan lose. And this type of education that happens in these debates is the most powerful thing. And you can sprinkle in some footage and this and that. This video content to put online that reaches thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people, I think is where like the one thing that's quite easy to do that pretty much any vegan could do that takes very little editing, understanding, or anything like this. This is just the simplest and such a direct method to reach so many people with the vegan message, and I think that's what they need. But I also think that people should focus on what. For me, right now, I'm thinking I want to become an expert in something that I feel will lead to me having a lot of influence. And so that's why I'm working on music right now, and I see that as a good path. But that's not a path for everybody. But some people are just good at what they're good at, and my advice is generally, what can you bring to the table? What are you good at? What are you passionate about? What are you interested in? Where do you see your life going? How can you contribute whatever your personal skills are
Yeah.
to this? And now seeing how we're at the end, because I was saving this to end, and this is the thing that I forgot earlier that I wanted to again mention, is that what we were talking about was people are a bit afraid of doing it wrong or something like that. I still have that fear, but I've come to a position now where that's fine. If I'm wrong about something, people will discuss it and they will talk about it and other views will be out there. And if I'm wrong, I want to know that I'm wrong.
Yeah.
So people will correct you. You don't need to worry if you said a word wrong, that maybe wasn't the right way of discussing animals or veganism. Other people will fix the problem and you can learn from that, and then next time you won't make it, maybe make a different problem. And the point is, like, if you're generally saying animals deserve rights and there's no humane way to slaughter and the animal holocaust is immoral and needs to end, this is wrong, you all should be vegan at the least, some sort of message along these lines, roughly, you're going to do a lot of good. You're going to do a lot of good. It doesn't need to be perfect, doesn't need to be the sharpest, doesn't need to be the smoothest, doesn't need to be the most chill delivery. If you're just having this conversation and getting it on the table, the other side's arguments are so ridiculous, so illogical, so violent and cruel and obviously unethical that even doing a reasonably okay job is going to go a long way.
Yeah.
And just getting this conversation on the table, on the table, on the table in as many different ways as possible, I think is like the best thing that people could be doing. So don't worry about making a couple of mistakes or something like that, because I still make them,
Yeah.
and people do all the time, you know. But yeah, it's not the end of the world if you do make one, and you can just get stronger from it, learn from it, and kick the next goal.
Yeah, I think that like the takeaway is just try, like don't put up a false barrier between yourself and doing it, and don't let perfection be the enemy. What's the saying? Don't let perfection be the enemy of good or something. Like
Something like that.
if you like the number of regrets that I have in life are usually when I didn't try something. It's not when I tried something and didn't do it a great job, because once you put yourself out there and you start trying, that's when you start to improve and hone and try to get better. And that's like kind of what this is with this channel. It's like a try, like it's an experiment. Let's see how this works. I'm not Wayne Chung, I'm not James Aspie, I'm not Earthling Ed, I'm not going to be them. But, like maybe we just give it a try and see if there's something that I can add to this. And that's what everybody should be doing, is just thinking about like, where's their skill set. And we often and we should
And what's
debate.
missing.
Yeah. And we should debate often like what is the best form of activism, because that's good for us. But it should also be that if someone is doing activism and trying, that's better than zero. Like it's got to be better than nothing.
100%. Honestly, I'm tired of debating with activists about activism. I'm so tired of it. I'm tired of hearing it.
Yeah.
I'm tired of seeing it. Just do it. You think
Yeah.
something,
Just
I
do
think
it.
something. Maybe it's not the same. Cool. Let's not waste our time discussing who's right here. All right. Just go do your thing. I'll do my thing. Meet you at the top of the mountain. Like I'm so
Yeah.
sick of seeing all vegans fight with each other. I can't handle it. I'm
Yeah.
Guys, move on. Move on from these
Yeah.
petty conversations and debates between each other, and just do you get the message out there. Focus on, and look, and like I agree. Sometimes these conversations are great, but I just feel like we get so stuck in them,
Mm-hmm.
and all this time, time moves fast. You only got so much time here to do this and do that, and I don't want to spend so much time just arguing with vegans about vegan shit. It's fucking annoying.
Yeah. Well, James, it sounds almost ridiculous for me to say this, because this is just like a brand new channel. I don't know how many people are going to look at it. So I don't know. I doubt there are going to be many people that watch this that don't already know you or follow you. But where can people find you on social media, on YouTube?
Well, I want to say, bro, even though maybe not many people will watch it, even if 20 watch it, that's epic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's epic. There's something here, maybe someone will hear, or some little bit of spark ignited. Who knows? But that's still a decent way to spend a couple of hours, in my opinion, talking about animal rights and sharing it to a crowd of people who are interested in animal rights.
Yeah.
So yeah, man. I think I myself have been like, oh, my last video got 10 million views, and then this video got 4,000 views, and it's like, cool, just do another video, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
it is what it is. It is what it is. You can't control that. But in terms of finding me, I'm mainly at this point, I'm focused on doing live streams on YouTube, generally at least a few times a week for the last month or so. So I'll be continuing focusing on live streaming, and on YouTube and on Instagram, just under my name, James Aspie. And stay tuned, because sooner or later, I don't know how long it's going to take, but sooner or later, all these lyrics I've got will be going into an album. And yeah, then I'll be releasing some Jimmy Cashby raps.
That's going to be great. I'm excited for
Yeah.
that. And I'm so grateful for you coming on, James. And I really appreciate that. And if people did not listen to me and go and listen to the interview you did with Wayne, please do so, because that's a great conversation. And it's really cool to see. I actually kind of, well, I was telling Wayne, it was very clear that you and he like each other a lot. And so at times it was almost just this love fest, but it was a great love fest.
Hell yeah.
So
We all
people
need it.
go watch the love fest
Go watch
between
the
Wayne,
love fest.
Wayne and James.
The love fest never ends between me and Wayne. How not? I got so much, just like, who's Wayne out there? Point me out them. I need to talk to them. He's the nicest guy and doing the maddest shit.
He is a super nice guy, and
He's so nice.
I'm really careful about, like it gets a little cringy when you do like this idol worshiping stuff. So like Wayne is not God, okay? but he's a really nice guy. And I do believe that Wayne is
Mm.
really important figure in our movement. He's a historical figure.
Indeed.
And
Absolutely.
he's got a lot left to do also. So
He doesn't look tired at all, despite everything
he
he's been through. He's
he
like
is
bright
a
eyed and what's next?
he is a machine. I will tell you, like sometimes behind the scenes, he lets on that he's a little weary, mostly from the infighting
Yeah,
and the vegan movement, like we
totally.
talked about.
Exactly.
But yeah, he's an
Nah,
impressive machine. Yeah.
yeah, man,
Yeah.
you gotta look like again, I get it, but if people want to talk from the sidelines, they can talk, but we're in the middle of a battle here, and you just gotta like you just gotta let the village idiots be village idiots and not go and try to talk to the village idiots about why they're village idiots. But bro, yeah, it's mad love. It's mad love. Honestly, I'm there's a lot of activists out there that I don't agree with everything, but I love them anyway. And there's a lot of activists out there that I don't like as a person, but I'm fucking glad that they're still doing their thing.
Yeah.
Whatever,
Yeah.
if I like them
Yeah.
or not. I love that they're doing their thing. I'm glad they're vegan. Very, very, very glad. And I'm happy to just let them do their thing. And like, I don't need to agree with everything they do because I'm busy doing my shit. And I hope they're busy doing theirs. And I hope anybody watching this is busy doing something, or if not, figures out something they can do to get busy. But yeah, bro, there's so much work to do. What is happening is extremely urgent. Like, it couldn't be more urgent. It's happening now. And there's very few people in the world who care enough to do anything about it. So I hope whoever's listening to this is one of those people. And I wish them all the good things and all the successes in their animal rights career or journey or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, it is an emergency for the animals, and sometimes we don't even
Totally.
treat it that way. So get active for the animals, and there's resources. And James, I appreciate you. We'll talk again.
Thanks, Jeremy. Absolutely. Anytime, brother. It's my pleasure.
All right. Take care, James.
See you, brother.